On our 5th wedding anniversary. My husband left me again. This time for his first love. Clarice has it hard. Raising the child alone. You're a woman too. Can't you understand her? I was more than willing to understand her. I was willing to help them. That way, they could raise the child together. I packed my things and applied to go abroad for further study in architecture. But he regretted it. Crying and begging me not to leave. Julian once again went to Clarice. I grabbed his sleeve. Can't you stay? Today is our 5th wedding anniversary. Celia, can you be a bit more understanding? Clarice is alone with the child. And the kid has a high fever. We can't delay any longer. He impatiently pried my hand off his sleeve. I scoffed. The child was always getting sick at the most convenient times. The child isn't even yours or hers. Why is it always you she turns to for help? Julian, if you go today, we're getting divorced tomorrow. In this day and age, divorce was something to be laughed at, but I wasn't the least bit nervous. Julian grew agitated. Do whatever you want. Don't threaten me with this. A woman like you, with no sympathy at all, who's going to want you after I divorce you? I flew into a rage. As he turned to open the door, I flipped the table over. The candlelit dinner, prepared to celebrate, shattered into a mess on the floor. Julian froze in place. What's wrong with you? How could I have married a shrew like you? I stormed out of the house, raising my voice. Yes. I ate the wrong medicine. What kind of married man runs to another woman's house every day? As I spoke, I walked to Clarice's front door and started banging on it. Clarice, if you're so capable of stealing a man, why don't you come out and face me? The neighbors, hearing the commotion, poked their heads out to watch. Julian's face immediately turned red with embarrassment. Clarice slowly opened the door, keeping her head lowered. She timidly peeked out. Celia, don't misunderstand. The child is very sick. I can't carry him alone. And Julian is the only one we can depend on. I yanked her out of the doorway. Your child sure knows how to choose the right time to fall ill. Last month, he was sick on the day Julian finally had time off to go to the movies with me. He was sick on my birthday last week. And today, on our wedding anniversary. Every time Julian and I find a moment alone, your child gets sick. Huh? Why don't you let him move in with you? That way you can take care of him every day. Fuming, having faciled Lansai. I went back to the house and shoved Julian, who was still standing there, stunned. What are you waiting for? Aren't you in a hurry? Go. I slammed the door behind me, leaving Julian and Clarice standing in the hallway, facing each other. The neighbors were gossiping, and everyone looked at the couple with utter disdain. Julian begged me to open the door, but I ignored him. Only when he heard me slam the bedroom door did he punch the door with gritted teeth and storm off. I calmly turned on the bedside lamp and started flipping through a magazine. The reason I dared to cause such a scene today was because I had been reborn. In my previous life, when Julian went to be with Clarice, a fire broke out at home. I was locked inside and burned alive. Now that I had a second chance, I wasn't going to tolerate them anymore. If he wanted to be with another woman, fine. I'd help him by letting the whole neighborhood see their true colors. Julian didn't return that night, but I didn't care where he went. The next morning, I happened to run into Clarice, looking weary, as she came back with hot water. Her eyes were full of resentment, as if she wished she could strangle me. I didn't even acknowledge her, locking the door behind me as I headed to work. When I arrived at the director's office, I submitted an application to study abroad. The director was taken aback. Celia, are you sure about this? You're the best candidate in the office. But last time you said you couldn't go because of family responsibilities? Don't worry, director. I've thought it through. For the country's construction, I'm willing to sacrifice my personal life for the greater good. Only by studying abroad and learning advanced Western techniques can we speed up the progress of building a new China. This is the most important task right now. As long as you approve, I'll go home and pack my bags. The director frowned and stubbed out his cigarette, then signed the application. All right. Go home and prepare. Say goodbye to your family. You'll leave in a week. I bowed deeply. Thank you, Director, for your approval. Back home, I took out the suitcase that had been gathering dust. It was the same one I had used to pack my dowry. Back then, I ignored my family's objections and married Julian because I thought he was a kind man. I once believed he was thoughtful and reliable. But I never imagined his kindness was selective, only extended to his first love. Clarice's husband had died young, crushed in a mine collapse. At that time, Clarice was heavily pregnant and went into early labor when she received the news. Julian stayed by her side in the hospital, running errands back and forth. The neighbors helped out, and it seemed like a reasonable arrangement. But no one expected that as soon as Clarice's husband died, she would turn her attention to Julian. Ever since the child was born, whether it was for milk powder, clothes, or when the child got sick, it became Julian's responsibility. Julian's monthly salary of €50 went mostly towards supporting her and the child. Our home didn't even have decent appliances. The old bicycle I had brought as a dowry was still in use. I tried talking to him, but he said I was as hard as a stone. You're a woman too. Why can't you understand? She lost her husband, had a premature birth, and nearly lost her life. If I don't help her, what's she supposed to do for the child? But everyone knew that after Clarice's husband died, she received a large compensation. Our family was being supported by my single salary. In the past, I would have made a scene about this. But not anymore. I packed my bags and placed our marriage certificate and household registration book on the coffee table, waiting for Julian to come home. He returned late. But I wasn't going to ask him where he had been like I used to. When Julian saw me sitting on the couch and then noticed the documents on the table, he looked nervous. Celia, can we stop arguing? I know I was wrong. But you don't have to divorce me over something so trivial, right? I gave a wry smile. Something trivial? The child is about to call you dad, and that's still trivial? This marriage is over. No more discussion. Julian snapped when he saw that neither my softness nor my firmness worked on him. Celia, can you stop being unreasonable? The kid likes me because I'm a good person. What's wrong with letting him call me godfather? I sneered. A good person? You really take pride in being everyone's saint, don't you? Tell me, is it really her kid who likes you? Or is it her who's set her sights on you? Julian's face darkened. Celia, you're impossible. Talking to a woman like you is pointless. I smiled faintly. Then I'm giving you the chance to go find a woman like Clarice, aren't I? When I went against my parents and married you, I thought you'd treat me well. And now? You make me watch you being kind to another woman every single day? Look around this house, every single thing here, from the furniture to the appliances, came with my dowry. The food you eat, the clothes you wear, even the roof over your head, it's all been paid for by me. And your money? You spend it on toys and snacks for Clarice's son, on her hairdos and her little beauty treatments. You've never even bought a single fruit basket when we visit my mother for New Year. Yet you've been generous enough to buy new clothes for someone else's kid as New Year's gifts. Having let out everything that had been festering inside me for years. I sighed. Julian, one out of most sigh. Since your heart clearly belongs to someone else, there's no point dragging this marriage any further. After the divorce, you can do whatever you want with her. Marry her openly. Let her son call you dad. At least then, all that money you spent won't have gone to waste. I stood up and headed for the bedroom. Julian, this marriage ends here. I want a divorce. Julian froze outside for a long time before following me in. Celia, can we not get divorced? Please? I couldn't understand. This heart was clearly with Clarice. So why cling so desperately to me? But it didn't matter. I was leaving the country in a week. Sooner or later, he'd marry Clarice anyway. The next morning, before I even opened my eyes, I heard noises from the kitchen. In 5 years of marriage, I had never seen him cook except when he made soup for Clarice during her confinement after childbirth. I ignored him, fetched some water, and began washing up. Afterward, I took 2 boiled eggs from the table, slipped them into my bag, and prepared to leave. Have a bowl of hot porridge before you go. Julian said gently, a tone I hadn't heard in years. But at this point, it didn't mean anything anymore. No need. We're practically divorced already. No reason to sit at the same table pretending otherwise. Oh. And remember to pay for your share of the groceries tonight. Everything in this house, the pots, the pans, the rice, the oil, I bought it all. If you want to eat, you pay. In 5 years of marriage, Julian hadn't spent a single penny on me. Feeding him was the same as feeding another woman in his place. My hand had just reached for the doorknob when I heard a knock. I opened the door to find Gannett beaming at me. Celia. These are eggs from my mother's hens back home. Thought I'd bring you some to build up your strength. I could tell that wasn't her only reason for coming. She clearly had something to say. Come in, Gannett. She stepped inside and glanced at Julian. Ah. Julian's here too. Don't take this the wrong way. But a married man shouldn't be thinking about another woman all the time. You should cherish your wife, it's what matters most. Julian kept his head down, eating in silence, though guilt flickered across his eyes when he glanced at me. I prepared tea and placed it in front of Gannett. She waved her hands politely. I'll just say a few words. I need to send the child to school soon. After thanking her and walking her to the door, I noticed Clarice standing outside, hesitant and awkward. Julian, Ninatu Nisai. Clarice is waiting for you outside. I called into the room, my voice loud and calm. Julian flinched so hard his chopsticks clattered onto the floor. Clarice stammered quickly. Celia. There's nothing between Julian and me. Really. Please don't misunderstand. Hearing her say the word, nothing made me want to laugh. I shot her a cold glance. Clarice. Drop the innocent act when you talk to me. Maybe you can fool Julian with that face. But not me. Your family's been living off our money for years. I'll give you 3 days to pay back every cent, or I'll make sure the whole factory hears about it over the loudspeaker. Her face turned ashen. It was just some daily necessities. Julian gave us some food. Things for the child. He was just helping me out. And did your dear Julian ever tell you how much that help has cost? Before we married, whatever he gave you wasn't my concern. But after the marriage, it's marital property. He spent no less than 40 yuan on you every month. That's at least 2,500 yuan over 5 years. If you don't return it, I'll report it to the police and let them decide what's fair. In these times, even a 10,000 yuan household was rare. The number stunned Clarice speechless. She looked pitifully toward Julian. Julian, Yafanaralo Sai. Say something. He didn't even dare breathe. Clarice, Tabin felt wild Sai. You should bathe too. Pay her back. It's not a small sum. Do it for me. Please. Clarice collapsed onto her knees, tears streaming down her face. Celia. Please have mercy. I'm alone with the child. Where am I supposed to find that kind of money? I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Instead, I went straight to their workplace and explained everything to the factory director. Sir, I'm not asking you to mediate. I just want my money back. That's all. The rest isn't my concern anymore. He poured me tea to calm me down. Celia, I've seen how devoted you've been all these years. Julian's the one at fault here. I'll help you get your money back. But divorce, Sai. That's no small matter. I've already submitted my application to study abroad. I'm leaving next week. And I don't know when I'll return. Him divorcing me and marrying Clarice would be better for both of us. The director looked shocked. After all, my image as a virtuous, devoted wife was well known. No one would have expected me to leave, let alone go abroad. But he was a sensible man. Comrade Celia, going abroad to study is a good opportunity. The factory supports you. Just take care of yourself out there. As for Julian, he was even being considered for this year's Outstanding Worker award. I didn't realize he was so utterly clueless. Just as the words left the director's mouth, Julian burst into the office. Director, don't listen to her nonsense. We're not getting divorced. If you're going abroad, I won't allow it. How could you make such a big decision without even discussing it with me? Clarice rushed in after him, sobbing as she fell to the floor. Director, please help me. How can I ever repay such a huge amount of money? They're seen through a crowd of curious co-workers. I kept my tone even. If you two don't mind making a fool of yourselves, go right ahead. But I'm getting this divorce. And I'm getting my money back. Clarice cried even louder. 2,500 yuan, how am I supposed to live? I might as well just die. And with that, she grabbed the window frame, ready to jump. Upon seeing this, Julian rushed over and held Clarice tightly in his arms. Clarice was crying uncontrollably, and Julian followed by comforting her. The factory director, clearly irritated, spoke up. You two have no shame? This is a state-run facility. And there are so many of our colleagues watching. What kind of behavior is this? Celia, please go home and rest. I promise I'll make sure today's events are addressed properly. I nodded and turned to leave. Julian quickly came after me, reaching out to grab me. But Clarice, who had caught up, clung to him desperately. I didn't want to waste any more time arguing with them. I walked straight out the door, went home, grabbed my documents, and bought a plane ticket. By the time I returned, Julian was storming home in a fit of rage, with Clarice timidly following behind him. I didn't know, nor did I care, what happened after I left. I stuffed the ticket into my pocket, pretending not to see them, and went ahead and returned home first. Before long, Clarice and Julian were standing at my door, the hallway cluttered with various belongings. Clarice's face looked like she had just been slapped. Julian spoke first. Celia, I've got everything back. The marriage. We won't divorce. Okay? Before I could speak, Clarice shouted. Celia, I've returned everything to you. I don't want anything anymore. Are you happy now? Julian, you don't have to worry about me and the kid. Just let us drink the cold wine. I glanced at the old, worthless things they had returned. Even the eggs Julian had bought for Clarice just 2 days ago were brought back. I clapped my hands and laughed. Clarice, having fulfilled what say. For the past 5 years, it's been Julian raising your child, paying for everything you eat and drink. Your husband's parents passed away early, and you alone have all the compensation money. Am I right to assume you've saved quite a bit? So, drinking the cold wine is a bit of an exaggeration, don't you think? The news of the ruckus I caused at the mine had already spread throughout the neighborhood, and the onlookers in the hallway were more lively, and during New Year's, Julian's face turned bright red. Clarice, I've helped you a lot these years. For the sake of the past, can you stop making a scene? If you're not ashamed, I still am. Gannett stepped forward, trying to mediate. Celia, this is getting ugly. We all still have to live together. I understood Gannett's kindness. After all, in this era, family scandals were considered shameful and meant to be kept hidden. But I stood firm. I wasn't afraid of any of this. Julian and Clarice's dirty business would soon have nothing to do with me. I grabbed Gannett's hand. Gannett, I've already made up my mind to divorce. In 5 days, I'll be going abroad for further studies. I've already bought my plane ticket. Take a look at these things in the hallway. See if your grandson can use anything. And take them. The rest, I'll sell to the scrap collectors. Gannett looked at Julian and then at Clarice, clearly uncomfortable. I pulled her over. This little toy car should be perfect for your grandson. And these new clothes. They should fit him too. Take these eggs as well. Gannett thanked me repeatedly, then turned her back to whisper. But Celia, you really are going abroad? Doesn't that mean you're really letting them be together? I nodded. Yes, Gannett. It's true. The revolution has not yet succeeded. I can't waste time on such personal matters. Julian didn't cherish what I gave him. But building the nation, the party, and the people will certainly not treat me unfairly. Seeing me so resolute, Gannett could only quietly support me. As she passed by Julian, she shook her head and sighed, muttering under her breath, "What a good daughter-in-law. Why couldn't you have had a better life?" Julian didn't dare make a sound under the scrutiny of the neighbors. Seeing Julian's attitude, Clarice ran back to her room and returned with an envelope. Here. 2,000 yuan. It's all I have. Take it. The remaining 500. You decide if my life is worth it. Julian didn't even notice Clarice's appearance and immediately softened. Clarice. What are you doing? You can repay this money slowly. No need to rush. I glanced at Julian. Then snatched the envelope from Clarice's hand. In front of her. I began counting the bills one by one. 1, 1 2, gananawa sure. 3. Not a penny more. Just 20 notes. And the remaining 500 can be considered as the bride price Julian saved up for you over the years. No need to pay it back. Julian immediately panicked. Celia. You can't say that. All the neighbors are listening. Everyone knows you're my wife. I sneered. Who doesn't know that you run to Clarice's house every day? Who's really in your heart? Clarice's face lit up with a smile. Julian spoke firmly. As if he were pledging allegiance. Celia. I will never divorce you. Clarice's expression dark, and in an instant, I didn't say anything. Just turned and went back to my room. Julian followed closely behind. As if he thought I might escape at any moment. I took out the envelope Clarice had just given me. Planning to keep 1,000 yuan for Julian. Since it was his money. But Clarice suddenly screamed. Drawing Julian's attention. He immediately ran towards the door. Only to remember he was supposed to be divorcing me. He looked anxious. Unsure whether to leave or stay. I waved my hand. Go ahead. We're neighbors. It's only right we help each other. Only then did Julian run off. Relieved. Janet knocked on the door and came in. I saw Clarice twist her foot. Julian picked her up and rushed her to the hospital. I don't know if she's faking it or not. You're still here? If you go abroad, they'll go crazy. Won't they? I smiled. Don't worry. Janet. I've already made up my mind. Let them be. Now that I have nothing to hold me back, I can leave for my studies with peace of mind. By the way, Janet. Here's 1,000 yuan. Give it to Julian. I've handled all the paperwork. And I'm leaving tomorrow. Janet looked surprised. Why are you leaving so suddenly? In such a rush? As I packed my things, I responded, I'm afraid that if I wait too long, Julian will try to stop me. So I'm leaving early and didn't tell him. Seeing how determined I was, Janet shook her head and sighed, saying nothing more. The next morning, just as dawn was breaking, I left with my suitcase, leaving only a signed divorce agreement for Julian. As the plane took off, I felt a sense of lightness in my heart. In my previous life, I had dedicated myself to the family. I never even left the province, let alone went abroad. In the end, it all led to nothing. Even after I died, my soul was trapped behind Julian. Watching him and that woman live happily together every day, I could only seethe with anger but do nothing. I watched them live their lives, loving each other until I was reborn. But this time, I realized nothing was more important than improving myself and contributing to the country. Julian's indifference didn't matter. I shouldn't have let myself be consumed by such petty emotions with him in the first place. After 2 full days of travel, I finally arrived in the beautiful country. I was greeted by embassy staff, who were dressed in neat Zongshan suits, making me feel a sense of familiarity in this foreign land. As soon as they met me, they warmly took my luggage. Comrade Celia. Welcome. I'm Aaron. On the way to my accommodation, I gazed out at the towering buildings, imagining myself returning to China after completing my studies, contributing to the development of my homeland. Aaron spoke about the country's rapid development. Our nation is in a stage of rapid growth, and what we need most right now is talent. If Comrade Celia can bring some advanced technology back, it would be a huge help. I was filled with excitement. That's exactly why I'm here. Aaron looked slightly concerned. Comrade Celia, I won't hide it from you, several people have come before you, but because the food, environment, and language barriers were too much, none of them lasted. They only learned a little before heading back. I thought for a moment. Our homeland owes its progress to the blood and sacrifice of countless revolutionaries. A little hardship is nothing. I can endure it. Aaron laughed heartily. Comrade Celia, your determination is admirable. I believe in you. But I could tell, though his words were supportive, He still doubted whether I could truly stick with it. For me, having fulfilled my obsession, nothing could be more difficult than what I'd already endured in my previous life. After a night of rest, I arrived at Aaron's office the next morning at 7. Aaron was surprised. "You haven't adjusted to the time difference yet, have you?" "There's no rush. You can rest for a few days first." I shook my head. "No need. I'm already rested. The sooner I start, the sooner I can contribute to the construction of our country." Aaron gave me a thumbs up. "Great. Let's go meet the architectural experts here right now." Under Aaron's guidance, I was introduced to the head of the architecture department. His hair was like that of many Asians, but his deep-set eyes gleamed like blue glass beads in the sunlight. In our conversation, I learned that his mother was Chinese, but she had settled here with his father. I greeted him in fluent English, and both he and Aaron looked at me with appreciative eyes. After all, I was one of the few university graduates in this era. In my previous life, after marrying Julian, I had focused entirely on living a stable life, and all the knowledge I'd gained in school was left unused. Thinking back to university, where I spent countless hours learning English just to better read foreign journals and study the architecture books that bridged both Eastern and Western traditions, I could easily rattle off professional terms. If it weren't for my studying abroad, I might have even forgotten that I was once considered a rare talent. For the next long stretch of time, I threw myself into my studies, and Julian slowly faded from my thoughts. Gradually, I adapted to the environment here. My clothing became more refined, reflecting a designer's style. The person who led the study groups here was a Chinese woman in her 50s, whose demeanor and fashion were elegant, exuding a sense of sophistication and high intellect. Though everyone was busy and no one had time to dress up, her influence was slowly rubbing off on us all. When Aaron saw me again, he smiled. "Comrade Celia, you've really blended in now. You look like a true architect." Indeed, after leaving Julian, I had started to rediscover the version of myself that shone so brightly before. Maybe, had I never married him, this was how I should have been all along. But I had chosen to become a housewife instead. It wasn't until that afternoon, while I was in the lab making an architectural model, that I was called out for an international phone call. It was Julian, asking me to come back and finalize the divorce papers. But right now, I didn't have the time to fly back just for him to finalize a divorce. Soon after, I got a call from Gannett. I learned that Clarice had caused a huge scene with him, claiming that his current troubles were the result of his relationship with me. The neighbors were eagerly waiting to see her embarrassment, and she demanded that he divorce me and take responsibility for her. 3 months later, I returned to China with the team, and I had a day off. I called Julian. "I have tomorrow free. You get your things together, and we'll go get the divorce papers in the morning." Julian was silent for a moment. Then he hesitantly replied, "Okay." I hung up the phone immediately, not wanting to talk to him any longer. The next morning, when Julian saw me, his expression was stunned, as if I had transformed into someone unrecognizable. "Celia, you've changed so much. I hardly recognize you anymore." I smiled calmly. "Let's go inside. I have things to do." He hesitated, following me inside, as if wanting to say something but holding back. When it came time to handle the divorce papers, he hesitated for a long time before pulling the documents from his bag. "Celia, can we not get divorced?" My anger flared in an instant. "You're the one who wanted the divorce. Now that we're here, you want to back out? Are you playing with me?" I snatched the documents from his hand and handed them to the clerk. "Please hurry up. I'm in a rush." I wasn't willing to waste another second of my time on him. Once the divorce papers were signed, I hurried back to the guest house where the team was staying. Because I had a solid foundation and worked diligently, I had become the team leader, someone the professor had high hopes for. As a result, the professor arranged for me to give a speech and demonstration for the domestic students. Though the material was familiar to me, I still wanted to prepare as thoroughly as possible. Later, under the professor's guidance, I participated in many seminars and lectures, learning a great deal of professional knowledge. 5 years later, I graduated successfully, bringing advanced architectural technology and expertise back to China. Returning to this city felt strange yet familiar. After dropping off my luggage, I immediately went to report to the director's office. The director was overcome with emotion. "Comrade Celia. Welcome home." I knew my judgment was right. I smiled at him. "Director. I have to thank you for recommending me all those years ago. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have had this great opportunity to study." The director beamed with happiness. "Well, you can't hold anything back in tomorrow's exchange conference." "I won't hold anything back. I promise." After having dinner with the old director and catching up on the domestic situation and the architect's basic conditions, I went straight to the classroom to look at the students' work, with theory lessons, hands-on practice, and project implementation. It would take at least a year to see real progress. After a month of busy work, with the teaching plans gradually falling into place, I finally had a day free to visit Gannett. Over the past 5 years, Gannett was worried I wouldn't be able to adjust to the bread abroad, so she often sent me local food from home. Although it wasn't anything expensive, I appreciated the thought, and I always kept Gannett's kindness in my heart. The moment Gannett saw me, she rushed over and hugged me tightly. "I've been waiting so long for you to come back. Look at how much weight you've lost. Come on. Let's go home. Gannett will cook for you. I've been craving your braised ribs." I smiled. It had been 5 years since we last saw each other, and Gannett looked visibly older. She had strands of white hair now, but overall, she still looked healthy and full of energy. While we ate, Gannett excitedly bombarded me with questions. "You've changed a lot after being abroad. You look much prettier. Can you speak English now? Say a couple of words for Aunt to hear." "Ah. Never mind. Even if you say it, I wouldn't understand." "Are all foreigners blonde and blue-eyed? Are they easy to get along with?" I replied to her one question at a time. "They've all been very nice to me. The food there is nothing compared to what we have at home, but I've gotten used to it." As we chatted, it was already time for dinner again. Gannett wanted me to stay, but I couldn't be away from school for too long, so I had to politely decline and promise to visit again next time. When I left Gannett's house, the neighbors, hearing that I had returned from abroad, all curiously stared at me. Some even greeted me enthusiastically. It was just like old times. Everyone gossiping in the hallway. Being abroad really does wonders for a person. After just a few years, you can see the change in their temperament. Do you think Julian will regret it if he sees Celia now? When Clarice heard that I had returned, she couldn't help but be curious about my appearance. She was standing at her doorstep, cracking sunflower seeds. She didn't look like the glamorous woman she once was. Her hair was dry and yellow, her complexion sallow, and her figure had changed. She looked at me with a mix of envy, jealousy, jealousy, and resentment. Julian, who had just returned from grocery shopping, couldn't resist staring at me for a long time. "You're back, Celia. Want to come over for dinner?" Before I could answer, Clarice jumped in, clearly irritated. "Julian, did you ask me if you could invite a stranger over for dinner?" I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. "I'll pass. I'm in a hurry to leave." I had no idea where Clarice got this sense of superiority from. During my conversation with Gannett earlier, I found out that not long after I left, Clarice and Julian had both been fired from their jobs for poor conduct and bad influence. I heard that now. Their family of 3 survives on Julian's income from selling boxed lunches at a street stall. Clarice was constantly making a scene, small arguments every 3 days, bigger ones every 5. Julian had grown so fed up with her that he ignored her. But the more he ignored her, the more she made a fuss. I thought to myself that this was the path they had chosen for themselves. As I was heading downstairs, Julian rushed out after me. "Celia, where are you going? Let me ride you there on my bike." I waved him off. "No need. I've got a ride coming for me." Julian looked unsure. "Celia, if you need anything," heading fulfilled my answer. "Just let me know. Don't try to be so tough." I couldn't help but smile. Now, it seemed to me that if anyone was trying too hard to be strong, it was Julian. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Julian awkwardly shook his head. I don't know what I'm saying. You don't seem like you need me. I didn't want to hear him go on. I anxiously awaited my ride. And Julian stood by me, waiting too. But I guessed he was trying to figure out if I was bluffing or if I really had a ride waiting. Clarice stormed down the stairs, furious. Julian, are you even going to keep living like this? If you don't want to be with me, go after her. After her argument with Julian, she started yelling at me. Celia, look at you, dressed like some seductors. You must be trying to attract someone. Before she could finish, my car arrived, a red flag sedan, arranged by my company to pick me up. Clarice's words stopped in her throat, her eyes fixated on the rare car, filled with envy. Perhaps because she couldn't stand to see me doing well. Clarice later caused a scene at my school a few times. But each time, she was stopped. In the end, the school had no choice but to call the police. And she was taken away. The director came personally to explain the situation and apologize to me. Clarice, you wanted this. And I gave it to you. Everything I have now, I built through my own hard work, step by step. I stand tall and fear nothing. Later, while leading a team to participate in the country's construction projects, building skyscrapers and new infrastructure, I also continued to train new talent for the nation, helping them get opportunities to study abroad and acquire advanced knowledge. The development of the country always needs new blood. But I can't fall behind either. So I continue learning. This journey hasn't been easy. But fortunately, I have a group of companions who, just like me, wish to build a better country. Together, we keep pace with the times, striving for the prosperity of New China. Celia, I hope your future life continues to grow, just like the development of our country brighter and better. On our 7th wedding anniversary, Cedric took me and his adopted sister, Serena, on a trip only to be caught in a devastating blizzard. In the moment of near death, on the brink of hypothermia, Cedric resolutely chose to hold Serena in his arms. With his final breath, he said, "If heaven gave me a chance to live again, I would refuse the arranged marriage and choose Serena. She is my true love." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Cedric and I got engaged, right there, in front of all the guests. He held Serena's hand on the stage and loudly declared, "Serena is the love of my life. I will not marry Luna for money. I beg my parents to let me choose my own path." As I looked into his eyes, I knew he had been reborn too. I lifted my veil, took the microphone, and wished them a lifetime of happiness. Then walked out of the hotel. But later, he came to me again, clutching a marriage charm he had begged for, kneeling every step of the way, pleading for me to love him one more time. On stage, Serena looked at Cedric with teary eyes. Cedric held her tightly around the waist. His expression one of defiance and desperation, as though if his parents didn't allow the annulment, he would elope with Serena. The guests below were all stunned. Wasn't today supposed to be the engagement banquet for Miss Luna of the Luna family and the eldest son of the Cedric family? Cedric is breaking it off for his adopted sister? That's a public slap in Luna's face. He's really risking it all for love. Huh? I wonder if Miss Luna will just let it go. Rumor has it she's obsessed with Cedric and forced the engagement. What a vicious woman. She deserves this humiliation. The two of them held each other for a while before reluctantly letting go. Hearing the chatter from the crowd, Cedric picked up the microphone and spoke. "Thank you all for attending today's engagement banquet hosted by the Cedric Group. I used to lack courage. For the sake of my parents, I accepted the arranged marriage with the Luna family. But now, standing on this engagement stage, I've realized Serena is the love of my life. I can't marry anyone else. Please, Mom and Dad, let us be together." He then turned to look at me on the other side of the stage. His eyes filled with a determination I'd never seen before. "Luna, forced love never lasts. After all these years, surely you understand that. Please don't stand between me and Serena." The burning sensation from hypothermia slowly faded from my body. Seeing all this, I knew I had returned to the day of our engagement. Hearing Cedric's words, and seeing how tightly he held Serena's hand, I knew he had been reborn too. As I looked at Cedric's youthful face, hateful face, memories of how we met began to flood back. Though our relationship started with a business arrangement, we had dated for 3 years before marriage. I was the one who pursued him at first, but he later told me it was love at first sight for him too. Our relationship had been sweet and full of affection. He used to ask me constantly, "Luna, when can we get married?" But my family wouldn't allow it until I finished my studies. This engagement banquet was something Cedric had insisted on to put an end to Serena's feelings for him. Serena had been adopted from an orphanage by Cedric's family, who raised her as their own and nurtured her with great care. She was beautiful and talented. They grew up like siblings. But her feelings for Cedric had changed. Even after knowing about our engagement, she wouldn't give up. She wanted to be his wife. Cedric, overwhelmed, begged me to quickly host the engagement ceremony to make Serena give up. In my previous life, when Serena confessed her love at the ceremony, Cedric had firmly taken my hand and said, "Serena, I've always seen you as a sister. Luna is the woman I choose to spend my life with." But in this life, he stood on stage and pleaded with me not to separate him from Serena, as if I were the one ruining a perfect love. Under the sympathetic and mocking eyes of the guests, I tore off my crown and veil, picked up the microphone, and looked coldly at Cedric. "You two love each other so deeply, I'll step aside. From now on, we are done. Our fates no longer intertwine. I wish you eternal love and happiness." As soon as I finished speaking, Cedric let out a long breath of relief. He wrapped his arms around Serena, and the two of them embraced tightly, visibly moved. "Cedric, after all these years, my dream has finally come true." "Thank you," Serena said with a soft, delicate voice full of emotion. "Serena, you've suffered enough all these years. Don't worry, I'll treat you twice as well from now on." Cedric's eyes were full of tenderness as he gently cupped Serena's face and kissed her like she was a fragile piece of porcelain. Cedric's parents began clapping first, and soon the guests followed, offering their congratulations with changed expressions. Only my best friend Frost couldn't bear the sight. She rolled up her sleeves, ready to slap Serena across the face. What a perfect pair of shameless scum. If Cedric didn't want to get engaged, why go through with it? He just wanted to humiliate you and run back to his adopted sister. I quickly tugged her sleeve and dragged her out of the hotel. Frost, afraid I'd go home and cry alone, insisted on taking me to a newly opened luxury caddy to unwind. I reluctantly agreed, but only drank. I refused to order any company. Calmly, hunting fulfilled my exi. I downed a bottle of champagne and switched to sipping red wine. Noticing my silence, Frost grew worried. "There are plenty of men out there. Luna, don't waste tears over that piece of trash." I shook my head. I wasn't sad, just full of sighs. In my last life, we got married right after college. At first, it was sweet. But when the novelty wore off, life settled into routine. I gradually began taking over the family business. Cedric, who only knew how to enjoy life, had zero talent for business. So I had to shoulder the weight of both the Luna and Cedric family enterprises, working myself to the bone. He told me more than once that he wished I'd give up my career and return to being a housewife. He didn't want a strong woman. But for our future, I never gave in. And at that time, Serena had transformed herself into Cedric's ideal woman. She needed him when it rained, when bugs appeared at home, even when shopping for clothes. She was like a fragile vine that couldn't survive without him. This deeply fed Cedric's sense of masculinity. One seduced deliberately, the other welcomed it openly, and with the bond of growing up together, things naturally escalated. I discovered their affair during our 7th anniversary trip. To help resolve a crisis in the Cedric family, I let him go ahead to the Arctic while I planned to join him at the agreed time. To surprise him, I arrived a day early at the booked hotel. To my shock, I found Serena lying half-naked on the bed that belonged to me and my husband, her neck covered with red marks. Cedric crushed out of the bathroom in a panic, hastily covering his naked body with a towel. When I confronted him, he didn't even bother to pretend to be sorry. I just made a mistake one all men in the world would make. This is the lesson you get for neglecting your family. If you weren't so utterly useless, why would I have struggled to build everything on my own? With my heart dead and cold, I asked for a divorce. But Cedric refused, no matter what. After much back and forth, he flew into a rage and shouted, "Fine. Let's divorce. Luna. You're a heartless woman obsessed with money and totally devoid of romance. How pathetic. You don't even know what love is. Serena is 1,000 times better than you. Come crying later." I looked at Cedric's childish face and could only shake my head. With him and Serena at the helm, the Cedric family was doomed. Sooner or later, he would realize their so-called love was nothing but an illusion. Memories of my past life mixed with the effects of alcohol made me feel dizzy. I informed Frost and left the private room to get some fresh air on the rooftop. But just as I passed the main hall, I ran into Cedric and his group. Even before I got close, I heard someone teasing him. "Cedric, didn't you used to say Luna was your goddess? And now you're publicly humiliating her at your engagement party? Guess the love's really gone." "Huh. Playing with a ring on his finger," Cedric replied casually. "Goddess? That was just a dopamine-fueled delusion. If she hadn't chased after me so hard, I never would have looked twice at a tomboy like her." Then he leaned down and gave Serena a kiss, chuckling. "Now this is what a woman should be: soft, sweet, and always revolving around me. Serena is the true love of my life." I couldn't be bothered with their nonsense and strode forward. The moment Serena saw me, her eyes turned red with tears. She turned to Cedric, her voice trembling. "Big sister, you promised to bless our marriage. You're not going back on your word, are you?" Cedric instantly wrapped an arm around her, consoling her while glaring at me with hostility. "Luna, I didn't expect you to be this kind of woman. We agreed to part peacefully. I suggest you stop clinging to me." Then he and Serena raised their joined hands to show me their matching couple rings. "I've made a vow to Serena. No matter what you do, I'll never come back," I scoffed. "Don't worry. I'm not into recycling trash." Without looking back, I headed for the rooftop. As I passed Cedric, I saw the fury on his face, but I no longer cared how he felt. I opened the rooftop door and leaned against the railing, ready to clear my mind. That's when a warm, dry hand suddenly pulled me into a strong embrace. "Luna, just because Cedric dumped you, doesn't mean you need to jump off a building." I looked up. It was Zeke, the heir to the Zeke family. Under the moonlight, even in a simple white shirt, his chiseled features and handsome face were incredibly captivating, and his firm arms felt especially reassuring. My cheeks flushed slightly as I pushed his arms away. "Of course not. I just had too much to drink and needed some air." Only then did Zeke realize how ambiguous our position had been. His face turned bright red and he apologized repeatedly. I waved him off and was about to leave, but he insisted on taking me home. Unable to refuse, I agreed, only to run into Cedric again as we left, when he saw I was accompanied by another man. His face dark and like a thundercloud. Someone nearby watching the drama jeered, "Say what you will about her personality, but Luna is the top beauty in S City." "Cedric, you really just let her go?" Cedric glared at Zeke's hands, which were steadying me as I struggled to walk. He gritted his teeth. "So what if she's beautiful? She's cold as ice and totally boring. I don't want her." And he lifted Serena's chin with one hand and stared at me as he spoke slowly and deliberately. "A woman like Serena, gentle and understanding, is the real deal." "Hey," one of Cedric's sleazy friends added, "if you're done with her, I might just take her for a spin. Don't regret it later." Zach pulled me into his arms, shielding me from the man's lecherous gaze. "Suit yourself," Cedric muttered, though his face grew even uglier at the sight. "Luna, I always thought you were some kind of saint. When we were together, you wouldn't even let me touch you. But now, right after our breakup, you're all over some random guy. You're disgusting." Seeing Cedric's intense reaction, Serena frowned and pouted. "Cedric, are you jealous? Do you still love Luna?" Cedric forced a mocking laugh. "Of course not. I'd never love a cheap woman like her. Don't worry, Serena. I love only your She's not even worthy of comparison. At that moment, I heard Zeke's deep, magnetic voice above my head. Wow. Sis. Your taste used to be so bad. Now that you're single again, why not make a glorious mistake and consider me? I didn't want to waste another word on Cedric. I grabbed Zeke's hand and walked away, ignoring Cedric's deaf glare. You dote on your Serena. I'll love my new flame. Now kindly step aside and stop clinging. We reached the parking lot, and I let Zeke into my car. Zeke is the only son of the Zeke family, one of the 4 major families in S City. We were childhood friends who used to play together, almost got engaged once. 2. After all these years, the once frail little boy had grown into a graceful young man. As I sat down, he leaned over and reached for my right shoulder. Just as I was about to dodge, his hand changed direction to fasten my seatbelt. In the subtle tension of that moment, I could actually hear my heart pounding. I quickly shook my head, trying to clear the illusions brought on by the alcohol. Don't mess around. I'm like Carol. Just drive. Drop me off and go home. Zeke didn't respond. Just started the car silently. When we got to my place, he insisted on coming in for a cup of tea. I couldn't turn him down, so I let him in. While pouring tea, I accidentally bumped into him, and the whole pot spilled on his clothes. I had no choice but to let him clean up in the bathroom. I even gave him the birthday gift I'd bought for my brother to change into. By the time everything settled down, it was already deep into the night. Zeke's family estate is up in the hills. It wouldn't be safe for him to drive back this late, so I agreed to let him stay the night. He came out wrapped in a towel to say goodnight. Water still dripped from his hair, tracing along his collarbone and throat, exuding a subtle, irresistible allure. I quickly turned my head away, urging him to get dressed and go to bed. He smiled, said sweet dreams, and gently closed the door behind him. I lay in bed, unable to sleep, so I got up, opened a bottle of wine to help me sleep, but misread the alcohol content, and ended up completely blacking out. When I woke up again, I was lying on the guest room's goose feather bed. The unfamiliar sensations from my body, along with the marks on my shoulders and collarbones, all pointed to one conclusion: something had happened between Zeke and me the night before. Rubbing my aching head, I had no idea how to react. Just then, the bedroom door opened, and Zeke walked in with a gentle smile, holding a steaming bowl of porridge. Luna, are you feeling sick from the hangover? Here, have some porridge to warm your stomach. Looking at him in his loungeway, smiling so brightly and warmly, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time, a sense of home. I stared at him, dazed, seeing that I didn't move. He set the bowl down and tried to help me up. I forced myself to snap out of it and pushed his hand away, preparing to have a serious talk about what happened last night. But he beat me to it, suddenly turning the tables and demanding that I take responsibility for him. I was sleeping soundly in the guest room when you barged in, threw yourself on me, and started kissing me. No matter where I went, you clung to me like glue. I couldn't get away and didn't dare to push too hard for fear of hurting you. So, I stared at him in disbelief. So I was the culprit behind all the chaos? Alcohol really is dangerous. That was my first time. Luna, you have to take responsibility for me. Just as I was about to make excuses, Zeke dropped his act of pitiful innocence and looked at me very seriously. Luna, you have no idea how long I've loved you. You've been my only friend since childhood, and the only light during my years of illness. Zeke spoke earnestly. I used to constantly ask Uncle and Auntie to update me on your life. Seeing you so full of life always made my pain a little easier to bear. After I got better, I wanted to return home immediately to pursue you, but unfortunately, by then, you had fallen for Cedric and were preparing to marry him. At that point, Zeke's eyes reddened, filled with sadness. Yesterday, I just wanted to watch from afar and send you my blessing. But that bastard publicly humiliated you. Honestly, having fulfilled my obsession, I was secretly relieved. So I followed you to the club, determined to stop pursuing you. Suddenly, Zeke dropped to one knee and solemnly took my hands in his. Luna, If you're willing. I want to ask you, will you be my girlfriend? I'll do my best to give you a warm home and stay loyal to you. Never leaving you. A ray of sunlight streamed through the window, landing on Zeke. And in that moment, I heard the sound of the ice in my heart cracking open. After being betrayed, I once thought I'd never touch love again. But Zeke made me want to try one more time. I nodded gently and held his hands in return. I'm willing to give us a chance. To try. But right now, I can't give you the same amount of love. Will you wait for me? Zeke didn't answer in words, he just hugged me tightly and sealed his promise with a deep kiss. After some tender moments, I remembered I had class today and started getting ready. Zeke insisted on taking me and even wanted to attend class with me as my significant other. I couldn't talk him out of it. So I brought this clingy tale along. Unexpectedly, we ran into Cedric and Serena, seated just a few rows away. After class, while Zeke and I were discussing where to eat, Cedric walked over with a sour expression. Well, if it isn't the pretty boy from yesterday. Luna. Just to spite me, you went and found some gigolo from the club? Zeke grabbed Cedric's arm and gave it a hard squeeze. I saw Cedric's face turn pale, sweat beading on his forehead. I gave Zeke a warning glance and looked at Cedric coldly. First, he's not a gigolo. Watch your mouth. Second, I didn't do this to spite you. Don't flatter yourself. Third, this is my new boyfriend. And Zeke. Since we are nothing but strangers now, who I date is none of your business. Cedric wanted to say more, but Serena cut in. Cedric, aren't you and Luna already over? Why are you still asking all these questions? Don't tell me you still have feelings for her. As she spoke, tears began to fall. Cedric hurried to swear that Serena was the only one he loved. I just didn't want her to end up with some shady club guy. I was just being considerate. Who knows what kind of diseases he might carry. But since she doesn't appreciate it, forget it. He rolled his eyes and muttered sarcastically. I glanced at him with icy disdain, grabbed Zeke's hand, and walked away, leaving just one sentence behind. Don't worry. Zeke's 10,000 times better than you. You should be worrying about yourself. Though Serena was obsessed with Cedric, she was a firm believer in separating love and physical pleasure. She was a well-known social butterfly at Club A, infamous for her numerous flings. She just hid it well. Cedric had no idea. Once we were out of Cedric and Serena's sight, Zeke suddenly wrapped his arms around me and kissed my forehead. I'm officially your public boyfriend now. Luna. You're not allowed to take it back. His smile was radiant, and his eyes sparkled with joy. He seemed to be surrounded by floating pink bubbles. Don't worry. I won't. You're wonderful. And I'll do my best to love you the way you love me. Just give me a bit of time. I buried my head in his chest and snuggled closer, cherishing this healthy love. Quietly in my heart, I whispered a thank you. Over the next month, Cedric flooded his social media with pictures of him and Serena flaunting their love. They skipped class to travel together. Paris, Venice, Hedon fulfilled my insertion. Rome, living out their so-called romantic story. The ridiculous part? I accidentally discovered that all those photos were set to visible only to me. I had no idea what message he was trying to send. But I didn't care. I focused on my studies. And thanks to the memories from my previous life, I had already begun preparing to take over the family business early. Zeke was with me every step of the way. We became perfectly in sync, life partners and business collaborators. Life was simple but sweet. We met each other's parents and received their blessings. The Luna and Zeke families decided to form an alliance through marriage. I thought that this life, I'd never have anything to do with Cedric again. Until a new project in S-City emerged, one powerful enough to reshuffle the city's entire hierarchy of elite families. In my past life, because of Cedric, I had no choice but to let the once flourishing Luna family cooperate with his declining family, missing the chance to take the lead. As a result, the Luna family fell out of the top-tier circles during the power shift. But this time, I had Zeke's family standing with me. With our combined strength and capabilities, I believed we could even claim the top seat among all S-City families. Just as Zeke and I had made all the preparations to attend the project's launch banquet, I unexpectedly saw Cedric and Serena listed as the Cedric family's representatives. Yes, Cedric. The business failure. After asking around, I learned that not long after Cedric and Serena got engaged, Cedric's grandfather suddenly fell seriously ill and is now lying in the ICU. Cedric's grandmother has also been in poor health in recent years, and is unable to manage the family business. So Cedric was forced to take over. However, it turned out that Serena had a hand in almost every major decision recently made by the Cedric family. While those decisions seemed reasonable on the surface, in reality, they were cutting off all passive retreat for the family. Clearly, heading for Silblam, Serena wasn't the harmless and innocent woman she appeared to be. On Monday, dressed in a white evening gown, I entered the banquet hall arm in arm with Zeke. But as fate would have it, Cedric and Serena arrived right behind us. Seeing Zeke still by my side, Cedric's expression became a spectacular mess of emotions. "Hey, Luna," he sneered. "Bringing along a low-born boy toy to such an important event? You really think highly of him." I couldn't tolerate it anymore and yanked my hand back. In order to avoid a scene, I warned him quietly. "Cedric, if you slander my partner again, the Luna family will make you pay for it." Cedric, however, mistook my lowered voice for guilt. He raised his voice deliberately. "Who would have thought? The dignified young lady of the Luna family has fallen so low as to bring a gigolo to a banquet. Aren't you embarrassed in front of all these uncles and elders?" His words caused a commotion. Suddenly, our corner became the center of attention. Seeing Zeke being insulted for no reason made my blood boil. I stepped forward, ready to confront Cedric. But Zeke gently pulled me behind him and shook his head. At that moment, 4 elders descended from the second floor. Leading them was none other than the head of the Zeke family, Zeke himself. With a commanding voice, he asked, "Which brat from which family dares insult the Zeke family and slander our heir?" Cedric froze. Having spent his youth shirking responsibilities and avoiding formal occasions, he had never actually seen the heads of the 4 major families. Serena whispered mockingly in his ear, "Who knows where Luna found this old man to pretend to be Zeke's just to back up her little toy? Don't be afraid, Cedric, he's just a fake." I glanced at Serena in confusion. As a frequent guest at various banquets, there's no way she wouldn't recognize Zeke. But Cedric, emboldened by her words, stepped forward arrogantly. He marched right up to Zeke and barked, "Where did this old fossil come from? Pretending to be Zeke? I'll teach you a lesson." He reached out, trying to grab Zeke's collar. Then slap. A heavy palm struck Cedric's face. "You ungrateful child." Cedric's grandmother had rushed in, her hand still trembling. "Mydra, kneel. Apologize to Zeke immediately," she demanded, panic etched all over her face. Dazed and shaken, Cedric stared at her in disbelief. "Mom, you're saying this really is Zeke? Then that pretty boy next to Luna, is he actually the Zeke family's heir?" Seeing Cedric's cluelessness, his grandmother nearly fainted from rage. She kicked him hard in the knee, forcing him to kneel. "You idiot. Don't you know the Zeke family has just won the top position in the latest project bidding? You dare offend Zeke? Do you want our family completely wiped out?" With that, she pushed Cedric's head down and frantically apologized to Zeke. Zeke glanced at them coldly and motioned for the bodyguards to drag them out like a pile of garbage. And he beckoned Zeke over and began introducing him to the guests. "This is our Zeke family's only heir. Zeke, our one and only successor." He then turned to me and gestured for me to come forward. "Our Zeke family has decided to form an alliance with the Luna family. You are all invited to the upcoming engagement ceremony." The banquet hall was instantly filled with congratulations except for Cedric, who stood out with a face full of bitter resentment. He was stunned by Zeke's true identity and realized he had completely offended the powerful Zeke family. His family would no longer have any place in the major project. Turning to me, he pleaded, "Luna, our families have known each other for years. You and I shared so many memories. Please don't just stand by and watch my family go down. Help me." Having felt my sigh, "I'm begging you." Cedric's grandmother clung to my hand like a drowning person grabbing a lifeline, begging me to speak for them. I shook her off coldly. Mrs. Cedric. The moment Cedric and I broke off our engagement, I cut all ties with your family. Please show some self-respect. I signaled to the bodyguards to be ruthless in throwing them out. Surprisingly, Cedric didn't say another word. Perhaps it was pride, perhaps shame. But in his eyes, I saw not only resentment but also a hint of wistful longing. I'll come back for you, Luna, he said softly before turning and walking out. Serena, standing beside him, had a fleeting shadow cross her. Luna families became the leading family in all of S City. Zeke and I got our marriage license, and our wedding was set to take place in a month. During that time, I heard Cedric and Serena also had a wedding of their own. I thought he had finally accepted the choices he made in this life. I had found happiness, and he had gotten what he asked for. The two of us were now nothing more than parallel lines, never to cross paths again. But life, like a dramatic play, always finds a way to surprise you. On the eve of my wedding with Zeke, Cedric suddenly barged into my office. Wearing a janitor's uniform, he had snuck in during a shift change. Just as I was about to call security, Cedric lunged forward and grabbed my hand. And he stepped back and knelt. Luna, I was wrong. Only now do I realize that it's you I truly love. Please, give me another chance. Don't marry Zeke. He pulled out a red talisman from his pocket and held it out to me. Look, this is the love charm you always wanted in your past life. I crawled and bowed my way to get at it. Will surely bless our future with love and harmony. His words stunned me. After some investigation, I discovered that Cedric's grandfather had passed away not long ago. The Cedric family was now on the brink of bankruptcy, and the culprit behind it all was Serena. Ever since that banquet, when the Cedric family was publicly disgraced and kicked out, their new business ventures began to fall apart one by one. Even longtime partners of their old enterprises chose not to renew their contracts when they expired. Cedric, though incompetent, could still sense something was deeply wrong. Though he had offended the powerful Zeke family, the scale of the collapse was far too severe to be explained by that alone. In desperation, he begged his ailing grandmother to come out of retirement and investigate. What they uncovered shocked them. This was all orchestrated by Serena. Serena, though adopted by the Cedric family, had entered their home with vengeance in her heart. Her parents had died on a Cedric family construction site years ago due to safety violations ordered by Cedric's grandfather, who had demanded cost-cutting measures and substandard materials. To cover it up, the family had smeared her parents' names, claiming they died while attempting theft. The Cedric family not only refused to pay compensation, but also drove Serena's only surviving relative, her grandmother, to death through stress and grief. Left alone, Serena was sent to an orphanage. One day, she learned that Cedric's grandmother, stricken with grief over her deceased youngest daughter, wished to adopt a girl to ease her sorrow. Serena seized the opportunity, doing everything in her power to infiltrate the Cedric family. For years, she played the part of a devoted daughter and temptress to Cedric, not out of love, but to destroy him from within. While helping Cedric manage the family business, she encouraged him to cut corners, leading to numerous legal and financial troubles with business partners. She also siphoned off funds, channeling them into her private accounts. Now, she had vanished with the money, leaving the Cedric family an empty shell, heavily in debt and ruined. That vicious slut Serena, Cedric shouted, furious, as he confronted me. She seduced me. Sad discord between us, that's why we were torn apart. Luna, we were husband and wife in our previous life. This life, too, let out a low sigh. You should belong to me. Not that pretty boy Zeke. He was visibly enraged. Luna, I know you still have feelings for me. I was a bastard before, but I've changed. As long as you're willing to come back to me, I'll do anything. He dropped to his knees and began to kowtow. I remained unmoved, staring at him coldly. Cedric, I said flatly, people must take responsibility for the choices they make, no matter what happened in our past life. In this one, I love only Zeke. If you don't leave right now, I won't hesitate to have security throw you out of the Luna family building. Seeing I was serious, Cedric slowly got to his feet. but his eyes remained fixed on the calendar on my desk. Then he gave a chilling smile. It's all right, Luna. I know you've just been led astray. I lost my way once too. I don't blame you. Everything will go back to how it's meant to be. See you next time. With that, he slipped away like an eel, vanishing down the stairwell. His cryptic words left me deeply uneasy. Days passed, then weeks. Nothing happened. Slowly, I let my guard down. Soon, let out a low sigh. The day of my wedding was arrived. The door games, the ceremony, the vows all went smoothly. As we reached the ring exchange, I finally let out a long breath of relief. But just as he lifted my hand, the grand doors of the hall were slammed open. Cedric stood there, dragging a limp woman behind him. It was the height of summer, but she was dressed in a heavy coat, an odd, disturbing sight. I looked closer. Under that curtain of hair, I recognized her face. It was Serena. Without warning, Cedric lifted her and threw her onto the stage. As she landed with a thud, her coat fell open, revealing what was strapped to her body. I gasped in horror. It was a homemade bomb. Luna, Cedric called out, his tone disturbingly calm. I told you. Everything will return to how it should be. Do you remember what today is? His words jolted my memory. Today was the anniversary of the great snowstorm in our previous life. I had to go to some effort, he continued, smiling like a madman. But I found that bitch Serena. She did take the money and ran back to the orphanage where it all began. I threatened to blow the place up, so she came quietly. Then he laughed, like a child delighted with a toy. She ruined our fate in this life, so she must pay with her life. She'll be our guide on the road home. See the bomb she's wearing? That's my special wedding firework for us. Starting over again as husband and wife. Zack immediately stepped in front of me, shielding me with his body, and signaled for the guards. You lunatic, I snapped. Cedric, even if I lived 100 lives, I would still choose Eek every single time. Hearing that, Cedric's eyes turned bloodshot with madness. He pulled out a lighter and hurled it toward Serena. But somehow, Serena found the strength to move. She lunged forward and knocked over the champagne tower, soaking everything. The bomb fizzled out, rendered useless. Security rushed in and pinned Cedric to the floor. The police were called. While waiting for their arrival, we locked Cedric in a storage room provided by the hotel and began untying Serena, preparing to send her to the hospital. After that, Zack and I returned to our room to change out of our stained clothes. But then, what then? From downstairs, we heard a scream, help, someone's dead. We ran down. What greeted us was a shocking scene. Serena stood, gripping a bloody fruit knife. At her feet lay Cedric, covered in stab wounds, his eyes wide open in death. Cedric, Serena whispered, her voice trembling with rage and pain. Your entire family deserves to pay with their lives. I only regret I didn't get your grandmother too. But it's okay. I poisoned your father. And now, I've killed you. My life is complete. I'm going to find my parents now. And with that, she slit her own throat. Her life ended as abruptly as it had been twisted by vengeance. Zeke and I stood in stunned silence, hearts heavy with sorrow. A month later, we held our wedding again, this time without interruption. Later, we had children. And then, grandchildren. Zook and I lived alone, loving life together. In this life, I never regretted my choice. I was happy. Truly happy.